Christopher, once you're up here, either one of you want to? Oh, there you go. Kick us off here.
So yeah, we have a lot of ground to cover. For those who don't know, very briefly put, like there's some markets on Polymarket where people trade on NFTs and they kind of get odds. You know, you can kind of see the odds of what's likely to happen with a given NFT, and or an NFT collection. And we're kind of just testing the waters because there's a lot of misinformation and a lot of opinions out there around NFTs and different collections. And a handful of us who work on Polymarket or just interested in these markets, like also collect NFTs. So we kind of want to go and do some rapid iteration and test out some different formats for this and kind of see what's engaging and what's entertaining. So we're excited for everyone to be along for the ride on this.
Do you have a Polymarket about how the NFT market will do? Or like macarons?
It's meta. I like it. I think we're a little bit, we've still got some experimentation and some hypotheses to validate or invalidate before we're doing meta markets like that.
One decent proxy might be like betting on the OpenSea volume, which we have.
Could we get some? Do you have any of them posted out? I'd love to pin them up top so people can perhaps easily visit these while we're in the space. I do see some stuff, like I see like the Amber Heard, Johnny Depp trial. I see that was.
And also, guys, a big thing about this room is that we want to have a lot of people from the audience up. So just anyone, feel free to just request, especially if you've got an NFT collection that you want to shill or you want to shit on, for lack of better words. Because, you know, we got to go see it. I guess the way I'll start it off is, Franklin, you are the preeminent JPEG NFT collector. You know, I love art, but I'm not too into the apes and the whatnot. So I'd love to hear two things from you. One is, what do you think is the underground dark horse for NFT collections that you're looking to hodl and you're looking to accumulate? And then what's like you think the shittiest, most overrated NFT collection that you would totally bet is going to go to zero before anything else?
Oh my goodness. Thanks Shane for putting me on the spot. I'm usually not a fudder type person who wants stuff to go to zero, but to answer your first question, the Goblin project looks like it's taking off. I've been away from the computer, but last time I checked, the floor price was like 1.2 or 1.3, and this time, maybe like 5 days ago, it was underneath 0.1. So a lot of people, if they bought in, which there was a lot of hype on the project because I saw it on Twitter, they all 10x their money. So that's even in the most barest of bare crypto and regular economic markets, you can still 10x your investment in a matter of 3 or 4 or 5 days. So that Goblin project, which is a CCL project, looks very promising. But I'm gonna go ahead and turn it around and say that because it has that CCO tag to it, I think there is a cap to that project. I mean, I could be totally wrong, but if we saw what happened with the MFers project, which was also CCO. CCO means basically anybody. Nobody has like sole rights to any of the images. Everybody has equal rights, whether you own the NFT or not. So it's basically public domain. And with public domain projects, yeah, they're fine, yeah, they're for the memes, but there's limited upside in terms of the community and like what you get from it. So I think the MFers project hit almost 7 ETH and then crashed all the way back down to like under 2 ETH. So I think Goblins, if they, they'll eventually hit like a astronomically high price, but then because of the, limitations in terms of like forming a community and stuff like that from a project where you don't really own, you're not really able to market by yourself what you want from an NFT. So people might want to jump out and buy into projects where they can do, have more utility and stuff. And I mean, as bad as it is, like they might want to buy a project where they can get into a party. I don't really have.
You're cutting out a little bit.
Oh yeah, I'm near my house, so I will go ahead and step down because I have bad service when I pull in.
Well, that was a lot of alpha. I'm looking up goblins right now. I think I may just go buy a few. That could
Okay,
be
go
like a
ahead.
fun part of this. Is like the second anyone convinces me, I'll just buy some.
There we go. Time to pump the bags. A couple notes.
Yeah.
Convince Shane what to buy is a
I
good
mean,
way.
look, guys, like these are so fucking ugly. It's ridiculous. People should look this up. I mean, it's the most decrepit uh, JPEG that I've seen in a while. Franklin, you really think I should buy one of these, man?
I mean, it's probably at record high prices. Sorry if you can't hear me, but yeah, it's probably at record high prices. So be careful.
I'm gonna have to think on it. Does anyone else have a bear case to come up here and explain what they're thinking? Mr. Underdoge, you're raising your hand a lot. Just request and we'll have you up.
I actually have, it's not an actual bear case about the market, but I think like if you're here to like day trade, right, you may get lucky, but like you have no one but yourself to blame if you're here to like flip something for some quick money. Then on some
Totally.
level, if you're not like, look, here's my view on it, and it's a little moral, but it's also practical, right? If you believe in the long-term value of the thing, you would hold it, even if you may occasionally take some profit to keep going. If you don't believe in the long-term profit, then trading in it, fundamentally, you think you're taking advantage of someone who's going to be a sucker because they're going to buy it and it's not going to do well in the long term, right? So they're
Yeah.
like taking the bag from you, which is like a little predatory behavior. So if you're here to flip, then in a weird way, I'm like a bear on people who are here to like try to flip quick profits out of stuff that they are playing a game with. They're the
Yeah.
people who either believe in projects or believe in what can like grow out of those projects over a long term. There's nothing better than that, right? And I don't
Yeah.
think that stuff's going to go away. I think we're watching the like, during the .com bubble, or rather during the .com bust, Amazon and Google went down along with pets.com in their stock price. Of course, pets.com went under because there was nothing there, but Amazon and Google did fine in the long run. The market was just so stupid they couldn't tell the difference, right? For a
Yeah.
minute. So if there's something you believe in the long term, then it's probably undervalued right now.
Yeah. I believe the word is conviction. But
What's that?
looking at Goblin Town right now, I like to do like when I buy things, buy art or whatever. I like to think like when all hell is breaking loose, how am I going to feel that I spent money on this? And I look at these things and I think I would feel like an absolute idiot if I'd put any significant amount of money into these quote unquote goblins.
I would love to ask a question about what you fellas are talking about right now.
Steven, yes. Basically, people are trading. Just imagine penny stocks, but like the ugliest, like goblin-looking creatures that you could
Right.
ever think of.
No,
And
yeah, totally. But more to the point where you were talking about having short-term conviction and kind of how hard that is. Does anybody in here, because there are some NFT traders and experts in here, does anybody in here have conviction over the short run or even any material non-long-term time frame?
Yes.
Well, go ahead.
I hear crickets. I just hear a lot of crickets.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, the short-term NFTs would be the projects that are developing games or things like that. But I think because NFT is a digital receipt, when we start adapting that to programming and other aspects, it's going to open up a lot more technology. So I think that, like in the beginning stage and, whatever, but I do think that eventually right now art, guaranteeing this is original on the artist, it has those benefits. But in the aspect of other technology, I think that within the next 10, 20 years, NFTs are going to be used in almost every aspect of communication.
Can we also
wow,
get your
I
dog's
will.
opinion?
Here's what I'll say: is for someone whose username is Mr. Underdoge, that was the most fitting comment. Although I didn't really make out much of what you said, it was the most fitting comment and input that you could have given. Hopefully your dog guides your decisions for investing because you would have been in early on Sheeb and Doge. quite literally two of the most successful meme-related investments.
Hey,
Crypto Byte.
yeah, definitely. So
You
I
have the
definitely
floor.
have I have some comments on this. First off, I'd be curious to understand the strategy of how you guys are shorting NFTs, since there really is no order book or any way to run leverage on them, unless you, I don't know, own like 50% of the collection or something. Um, out Outside that, I think that one of the things that you're going to see during this bear market that's important to pay attention to is what we saw back, in early days here at Bored Apes, which is what floors are actually going to bottom and hold. And what I mean by that is I think most NFT projects are going to zero. I'm not trying to ruin Goblin Town or any of the quackers out there, or any people who are flipping short term. But if you're buying projects now at this point, and you're thinking that they're going to survive the bear market with what's happening, I would definitely think twice about that. I mean, maybe for a good short-term flip, maybe you'll get lucky, but you can also just get as lucky like going to the casino. But if you're looking for projects that are actually going to survive this bear market, you're really going to have to study the charts and look at those floors, and sort of look at other times in the year where these projects bottomed out and if they recovered. Because I think that you're not going to see a lot of NFT projects survive this. And I know in the NFT community, we use this word called blue chip, which I think we certainly need to remove, because we really need to be looking for things that decouple from the traditional markets. Again, I started in crypto. I was back in stocks as well. And as I got into crypto, like the correlations and everything were certainly there. And I think the NFT space is starting to pull some data on that, but it's still too early. So
Yeah.
I
Well, Ashley, I want to let you go. You've been waiting very patiently, but Crypto Byte. So you seem like you are very adept at technical analysis from your stock days. So how do you apply technical analysis to NFTs? What's your investment and trading theses? If you could share some alpha with us.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I honestly don't. I think it's a totally different beast. But I will say this. I will say there are signals that show bottom. There's the same kind of decoupling behaviors that you can find in the market and those correlations. Um, I would say, I mean, you can put stuff on charts. You can read RSIs, but I would definitely say like the only correlation you have in NFTs, there's no order book, right? So there's no way to really truly understand like what is really going on as far as where the buyers and sellers are, and liquidity can drop in a heartbeat. In fact, I've seen projects. I mean, I'll just give you a couple projects in the space. I mean, Azuki, we saw what happened there. So floors fall out left and right in the NFT space. There is no like guarantee that you get out. So I would say like my trading strategy is I look for things that have history, of really holding through time, right? Like, and I know that's totally crazy for like the standard trader. But you're either doing that or you're looking at a potential quick flip, which really is just based on like hype and like all the social media traffic around a project. If you can get in on something and just ride the floor, like these goblins, I mean, these goblins are a good trade if you just buy them to flip them, but don't buy them and think it's going anywhere because it's not.
Where are you charting? You keep talking about charting these floor prices.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can look at the Dune analytics. It's very easy to build that against
Yep.
OpenSea and other stuff. So when you build those Dune analytics, you can watch sort of the trading volume just the way you would in anything else. And I mean, you just have to look at that. But the real signal that I find is where do things bottom, and where do they really stop the fall, and then also like what is the liquidity and the volume going into that right over time. So if that holds constant, so let's say volume holds constant and we do drop in flow, right? So the amount of people offloading versus the amount of people who are still buying, the project is still in a good place. And you can see that, like if you look at the BAYC, like just the graph of volume compared over time versus like where these floors start to bottom, it's very similar to the signals that you get like in the crypto world. The problem is the data is not as good, and you don't have as much data over time, right? Because if we look at this, we really only been at this for a year, right? Like if we look at when some of these projects came in, and so
Yeah.
without more data, it's really hard to understand like where this is all going. And the other
Definitely.
problem, the factor that you have is, unlike a company that or crypto that may have established order books and everything else, the other problem that you have is that something can come out and tank the project overnight. So I do not look at NFTs at all, no matter how good the project is, as a safe investment.
That was a very principled and sophisticated NFT investment thesis. A lot of people just, see a really cool picture and hear about utility, and they go all in.
I just have to say, we have a meme legend in the audience, and if one of the mods can invite Greg up, even if you can't use your voice or speak,
We're gonna invite
it's
Greg
an honor
up.
to have you here.
Okay, Ashley, I want to hear what you have to say. You've been waiting, and honestly, your memes, I'm a big fan of your memes in the past, so we're grateful to have you on here.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I just am listening to the more like experienced and I'm trying to think of the word. Like, I have the most degen answer for the way that I do NFTs, because I feel like NFTs are just so degen half the time. Like, in this space, like something like a free mint, with the ugly goblin can go to 1 ETH, when some projects like, Creature, which I bought last year, are still struggling to even break half an ETH. And that actually, there's so much.
What?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Creature can't break half an ETH?
Or something. It's around that area. So, the way that I've seen the market work is like Twitter is so much more valuable to NFTs than anybody would think. Like, going in Twitter and actually like filtering for people that follow these projects that end up having these crazy overnight success stories, or seeing like taking the temperature of Twitter, see what your friends are buying, see what people are hyped about, because a lot of the times you can catch these projects when they're about to be completely hyped and then sell at the most hyped, and then basically get out before it bottoms out. I mean, unfortunately, in the market that we're at, that's what's happening. Like, I kind of see that happening with goblins. I see that happening with a lot of the derivatives that are coming out. It's kind of a free for all. Like, a lot of the times, like, I was trying to do some kind of analysis with it, but it was so hard for me to keep up with it. Now it just feels like I'm degenning like every day.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, when everything's going up, the degens win, and when everything's going down, the degens lose. But honestly, the people who use technical analysis, they probably lose too. Because the interesting thing about shorting is, and we can kind of get more into specifics of that later, but the interesting thing is that actually makes a more efficient and healthy marketplace, because when things can only go up, there's no, it lacks efficiency, where there's basically more liquidity, where people can take both sides of the trade. So that's kind of an interesting topic. Wolf, you're raising your hand. Ashley, thanks so much, by the way. And also, if you want to pitch us NF titties, like that sounds compelling.
Oh my gosh, I have a big love for titties. So if you want to buy my crypto titties, go to nftitties80085 on Twitter, and you can pick yourself up a titty.
Wow.
I like how at first I thought that was a non sequitur, and I'm like, Shane, what are you saying? And then it's like, oh, she has a project. Okay, this makes more sense. Amazing.
Yeah.
I'm looking at it right now. It's fun.
One point, I think someone asked it earlier, maybe it was Steven, about, can you really short NFTs? Or someone else was in the audience. And yeah, there's not a great way to directly short, but if you look at what I pinned up top, it's the second pinned tweet. So there's two tweets pinned up top. The first is actually tweeting out about the room. If anybody's able to share out this room, I see a bunch of people on this panel. Even if you could just interact with that, if you could throw a like, a comment, whatever, we'll be able to get more people into the stream, and that would be awesome. So that is pinned up top. And then the second one is actually the thing that I commented underneath it, which is, and I think these came out today, I believe, Harry, correct me if I'm wrong, but there are now marketplaces on Polymarket where you can bet on where the floor will be on different projects. So, for example, I'm looking right now, and there's one with the floor price of Bored Apes be above 93 ETH on May 30th. So, this is a way to basically, without necessarily shorting or going long, to see directly, whether you're bullish or bearish on a project. And for example, right now that's trading at 55 cents. No. So it's slightly higher that people are saying, no, it's not going to be up there. I don't know exactly what's trading at right now, but if you looked at what was trading at now, and then you made that cross comparison, you could probably see as to whether people are bullish or bearish. So just a couple ideas of how you can get exposure to this through, something like Polymarket without actually having to go, long or short. What's up, Franklin?
Yeah. As you said, the interesting thing is when someone, I think Stephen was saying earlier, right? Like if you want to have something where you are like borrowing collateral as a means of shorting instead of like synthetically, or you're borrowing against collateral, like, yeah, it's becomes sort of convoluted. But if you are just creating sort of a derivatives market where people can take two sides with sort of an index that's being used, which is the floor price, then you can go and create markets on all different types of NFT related stuff. And that is more so the product of the Polymarket approach.
Perfect. Yo, Franklin, I see you unmuted there.
Yeah, Shane. Just I guess a point of order about Polymarket. It's still not available for U.S. IP addresses, right? It's geofenced.
Correct. However, if you want to go and look at it for informational purposes and going and seeing what the likelihood of things happening, actually what all along, ever since day one, has been what most people use it for, that is something that's anyone in the world can do. It's basically like a live poll. When you think about polling, like it's really important to get a gauge of what's likely to happen. But really, there's no aligned incentives. There's no skin in the game, and it's just people getting polled at one given moment in time. Meanwhile, a market is like a perpetually accurate poll that's always up to date to the moment, which is this really cool concept.
Yeah, that makes sense. It wouldn't be like behind because there'll always be somebody in there, wanting to take advantage of it and make sure it goes the right way.
Exactly. Yeah, and in the meantime, we can always shoot the shit about different NFT projects. The Goblins one was definitely a dark horse, Franklin. I'm curious, do you think that they're aesthetically pleasing when you look at those goblins?
Not at all. And I don't even buy stuff because of the art. I just buy it because it has a lot of momentum. Like I honestly don't even know what. I haven't even really fully looked at a single goblin yet. I just know the name. I go to the NFTX liquidity pool and just buy the underlying token attached to it on Sushi Swap, and then just pray that before it goes up or sell it before it goes down. So I'm not even like buying the NFT mostly since it's it's not really like a project where you really need the NFT to do anything. Like I can just dollar cost average through the liquidity pool token. So, I use that same logic to like any other projects too. I don't really look at what I'm buying. I just buy the floor or go straight to the floor. So I have a whole lot.
For anyone who had any doubts or concerns that the people who trade this stuff are not in it for the art, there you fucking go. Exactly. It's not for the art. The meme was always in it for the tech with crypto. Meanwhile, people were buying like supply chain shitcoins that like were just anon teams, and this was before the sort of proliferation of DeFi anon teams that actually had merit. But yeah, Franklin, I appreciate the candor and the transparency on what sort of drives your I guess you could say investment decisions in this space. But the blonde broker, I feel like you would have a diverse thought and opinion to contribute to the conversation. I'm curious what you have to say. I guess not, but VAR.
Yeah, Shane, I can. I just want to jump in quickly. It's my first time being up here, and I haven't heard of Polymarket before. But I just taken a look at what you guys built, and it looks really interesting and something unique that I haven't seen before. I just had a question for Franklin, if he's willing to engage.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I just want to know why, because I know you've been part of Funks for a long time. I want to know why you still support Yuga and Bake, even though you know that Bake is riddled with Nazi dog whistles and racism. Like, why do you still choose to support them, even though you know? Because I know you haven't like ignored the shit on Twitter. Like, you've seen this info. So I want to know.
This is not at all what this space is about. We're discussing NFT projects.
Sorry, Wolf. I'm not gonna go any further with what.
All right then. So yeah, that's not what we're discussing.
No, but you're talking about shorting NFTs, man. Like, I
all
wanted to bring up some real info.
right, I'm gonna try that one more time. I'm open to real info, but not personal attacks in the space. Or as to what's going on here on a public forum, that's not what we asked these people to talk about.
Yeah. Well, look, Vard.
Okay. I apologize. Okay, I won't go at Franklin, but people need to realize that so you're talking about short. Is it time to short NFTs? And I think it's time to short Bake. Like, their project is riddled. Like, this, I'm not trolling. Like, I'm not coming up here to troll and FUD. Like, this is real info that people need to know about. But the Bored Ape imagery is riddled with Nazi dog whistles and racism. And the four Bake co-founders are well-known neo-Nazi 4chan trolls. They look like some.
I'm gonna jump in here because you're using like appeals to authority, where you're just making assertions and saying that the things are
now
like
this is getting spicy.
accepted,
I'm a mute and just
and
listen.
they're not.
Wait, why do you have a Bored Ape Yacht Club PFP?
Yeah, and I don't think that that's
okay.
like,
So
the vibe here right
the
now.
Bored Ape in my image is a Ryder Rips Bake. Ryder Rips a conceptual artist. He's been a conceptual artist for over 15 years. His dad is Rodney Rips. He's got like portraits, and he's very friendly with Andy Warhol. But Ryder's also a not conceptual artist. He's a creative director for Kanye West, Grimes.
Okay, so
I know Ryder.
Let me finish. So Ryder is the person who compiled Gordon Goner.
Nobody knows this. Nobody knows
well,
this.
listen, I pinned it
I
in the top.
would rather not let you finish unless the moderators want to mute.
No disrespect to Vard. It was very funny that he was taking a knock at apes and had an ape as a profile picture, but you know, he seems to have a very fervent bear case thesis. But sort of along the lines of that, it's interesting to see how heated people get, like in the traditional financial market. Like a reason why it works so well is because of what people call short sellers. And or short side hedge funds, short side analysts who spend all their time thinking about companies that are overvalued, trying to identify companies that are overvalued and profit off of them going down in value. So you could have someone like Vard, who with his like 4chan theories, and I think it's kind of compelling where people can say all that, but letting people put their money where their mouth is really the ultimate test of time. And the ultimate test of conviction, going back to that word. And Franklin, sorry about that. Hopefully that wasn't too uncomfortable, but we're past it on it. And so kind of keep rolling on that. Ashley, you have something to say, or Wolf, who wants to take it?
Yeah.
Or Gannon, we haven't heard from you.
Well, first off, Franklin, I'd just like to give you a second if you want to say anything.
Yeah, sure. I've heard these, accusations about the founders from, months ago. I mean, I'm a black person. The imagery of apes can get sort of cringe depending on how you use it. I've known this for years, well before I ever bought an ape. But I really don't think that the people that founded Yuga Labs, the team behind Bored Ape Yacht Club, are what Vard said they are. If you guys believe it, that's what Polymarket's here for. Go ahead and max bet the floor price to go down to zero, and I'll just keep collecting the apes. It's not really going to affect my personal investment, what I'm going to do with the apes. So I have big things planned. The space, I think it's I feel like Yuga is the early like Google or Apple. Like, this is the kind of days we're in. So I just have a totally opposite case for apes. But if you think that the imagery is going to be the downfall of that project, then that's what we're here for. So I definitely appreciate and encourage the banter. It's just not something I believe in. The team's already come out and denied it. I don't really know what other proof I need.
Yeah, I hear that. Franklin, I've always admired how principled you are, and as we've heard you up here, you're not really out here shilling your book. Like a lot of NFT influencers are so deceptive and misleading and not forthright. So I appreciate that you keep it 100, as we
Thanks.
say. Gannon, it seemed like you had something you wanted to say. Why don't you chime in?
Yeah, the point that I was going to make is, you know, there we all know all about the whole thing that Vard was talking about, but what I was just trying to say is, he was repping what looked like a Bored Ape Yacht Club PFP, and he went into the long-winded speech about how it's not. And well, for 99.9% of the people in the space, they're in this Twitter space or probably on Twitter, they're not going to know that whole backstory. So it's just very interesting and kind of hypocritical to point out, to be so strong about his conviction about, the allegations about that, yet still rep a PFP that looks extremely identical to the
Right.
Bored Ape
That
Yacht
takes
Club.
the award for the largest irony of the day.
Yeah, and I think that's a bullish case for the apes, because you can't say they're racist and then rock the same ape as a picture and then claim it's conceptual art. Then it makes your whole argument just a piece of art. So
Right.
the more people, the more apes that, like I said, 99% of people here see that guy on an ape, they probably think, oh, it's a nice project, Bored Apes, let's go. They don't, they really don't care if he actually owns it or not. So, the more apes you see, the more mainstream we'll get.
Ape strong
But,
together.
Hey,
well,
what if in,
I
yeah,
took
go ahead, Wolf.
Yo, Gannon, I wanted to throw another question. So, Gannon, you run the Drop, which is pretty much the
Mhm.
#1 newsletter for NFTs. So you're always within this ecosystem. Now,
Mhm.
I'm curious, would you be open to throwing out like a few projects that you're pretty bullish on and maybe a couple that not so much? Because it'd be interesting to see how these could fit into, Polymarket marketplaces.
Yeah, for sure. What's funny is I was literally writing our newsletter for tomorrow morning, and then I go on, Twitter, and I just see everyone in here, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm missing out. So thanks for bringing me up as always, Wolf. The goblin is, whether you hate the goblins or not, we should be kissing the feet of the goblins, because they're pulling us out of this, bear market a little bit here. And I don't own any, but I think there's something a little bit more to this. I think people who have been in this space for a while, they go on the website, they see, hey, wait, no, this actually took someone who knows how to make a website here. It's pretty ingenious. Their marketing approach, the way they interact. This is definitely a project from, this is all my opinions. I've seen hundreds of projects come across my table. This is just an opinion, though. Whoever's created this project has done a project before. That, no doubt about that in my mind. Because it's a risky approach, right? Who knows? They could be someone who already actually has a big name project. And believe it or not, that's more common as we're finding out. Now what looks good on, that is the project that is the hot project right now. I'm going to upset a lot of people here, but we have a project at OK Bears, floor price is looking great. Long-term vision, I don't know. We've tracked so many projects that are a derivative or have, I'm not saying 100% copy pasta or anything like that, but any level of copying of a blue chip just tends to not shake out over time. And again, there's traders and there's investors, right? Just like the stock market. If you're trading, OK Bears, you're trading all these other, PFP projects or whatever, all for it. I'm all for it. I love it, Franklin, when you post your trades of like literally you're like get like a 0.1 ETH trade and you flip it that quickly in like 10 minutes and 10 seconds. Those are really cool posts.
That is savage.
Thanks.
But there's investments and there's flips. And I found, reaching back to what everyone was talking about at the beginning of this space, how do you approach investing in this space? There's many tactical ways. Wait, how many Discord messages are sent in the general chat every hour? That's something that is actually really important. I've found to be really important. What are the people talking about in the Discord, in the general chat? Are they talking about the floor 24/7, or are they talking about the in real life event that they're all psyched for? You could feel the pulse in the room when you're in the Bored Ape Yacht Club party last year in NFT New York City. I was lucky enough to be a +1 there, and everyone walked out of that party and they're like, how the hell am I gonna sell my mortgage or whatever to buy one of these apes if you're a +1? So like that was a really key indicator, being in real life, feeling the pulse of the place. Now we got all the classic social media, how is the engagement? Hey, why don't you click on the people who are actually liking these posts? Do they have the same exact profile of 50 other people in the post that like the post? Well, that's not a very good sign. That means, they're hiring a click farm, which is very popular in this space, unfortunately.
Shaking my head.
In the Discords, that is very common as well. So there's tactical approaches. The way that I style my investing is I invest in founders. I invest in, my biggest holdings are, I own a Doodle. I'm lucky enough to own a Doodle early. I wish of course, I bought more. But those are, prior Axie Infinity people. Psychedelics Anonymous, for instance, they've been holding their floor pretty steadily. You got an entire team of professionals with Lewis at the helm there. And, so there's many ways to go about it. Stock market news, you're holding up your hand here. I'll let you in.
I'm going to take us a slightly different direction. So if you want to finish up, and I can come in after.
Okay. Now, of course you can obviously use like icy tools and stuff like that. I think personally, though, also, even
guys,
though
we're feeling kind of frisky. Do we want to let Vard come back up here and give his spiel on why his profile photo? Let's see. Listen, if it gets out of hand, I'm gonna have to intervene. Okay, but let's see.
I just want to listen to like a wasp tell Jews and black people that they're Nazis.
Where's Vard? Last thing I was gonna say before Vard gets in here is the classic VC approach, which is, if you have the capital to buy a lot of projects, that tends to do well, because all you got to do is just, hit 1 out of 15, and that could, do very well for you.
Okay, Vard.
Yo, that's good. Thank you for bringing me back up. How's it going?
We're good.
Yeah, so why did I get removed for sharing the info? Because it's really important info that people need to hear. Like, why did I get...
And...
All right, yeah.
Okay, Ashley.
Yeah, I wasn't just screaming obscenities, but why? Okay, sorry about that. Ashley.
Hey, I'm sorry. I was very distracted by all that. I actually spilled an entire cup of coffee on my couch, so this entire time I've been
What kind of coffee?
It was
right.
It was a latte.
Send the bill to Vard.
Hey, listen, guys. That was pretty funny.
Okay, we have a couple other people who are up here that haven't spoken yet. Also, I want to get
Mr. G Fiduciary. Why don't you chime in? Listen, guys, we now have like 18 minutes. This has obviously been really fun.
We can go to.
Let's start upping the pace. Let's start, and people try to be succinct, be quick with their arguments. We're gonna start letting people up a lot more frequently. Let's call it like rapid
word, 2-word sentences.
Shane, if you want to go to 6:15, that's fine.
Hi guys.
Let's play it by ear.
To the conversation earlier, before we got a little derailed, I was just going to take the other side. I've come from the stock and investing, doing some stocks, bonds, and options, and coming into the crypto world, and then seeing the NFTs. I took it more of a fundamental approach. Like Jan was saying before, I like to look at the founders, and if I don't know the founders and I'm looking at a new project, I actually go into that Discord and I interact with them, and I try to find out more information. And by finding out if they are doxxed, and then looking at these long term, because I am finding these individuals like you're talking about that are flipping them, that are trying to use, for lack of a better term, inside information to try to understand where the floor is and how to flip them. But I personally look at a much more longer term approach. And I think some of these are creating very sound businesses that do have longevity for investments, my opinion.
That's a great take. I mean, what do you think? What do you think, all the hype aside, what do you think is the fundamentally best bet in the NFT space? Which JPEG collection do you think has the best fundamentals?
No, Bored Ape Yacht Club by the farthest margin. I mean, the brandability. Second would be Doodles, just because of the brandability. I mean, there. I know someone said earlier, it might have been you, Shane, but like the art doesn't matter. I mean, it does matter when it comes to brandability. I truly believe, you know.
Case in point, the Goblin's taking off. I'm joking.
Yeah, no, that's different. That's a meme. You know, that has memeability, I guess.
So Ape Club BAYC aside, so Mister, you seem like you and Gannon, obviously you're in the thick and you're just in the center of it all. But Mister, you seem like you are kind of on the outskirts, not necessarily running the biggest newsletter, and you are turning to technical analysis in order to find fundamental value in the NFT space. So can you walk us through one of your investment theses? Just keep it real quick.
Without trying to shill a project?
No, shilling is encouraged. Just try to be persuasive.
Sure. Well, one of the ones I like, the Hydro Whales. They're a group of very intelligent individuals. I've sat in many of their YouTubes and security seminars. And what they're doing is purchasing with our funds and what they already have, mining rigs, and they're putting them in a hydropower plant to conserve on energy. And we've seen the videos of what they have, and it's kind of neat to see these walls of these mining rigs. And what they're doing is for 6 to 9 months, they're going to continue to build a bank until they can be sustainable before they start to divvy out what we'll call royalties at the moment.
Guys, what are the odds that that's a Ponzi scheme?
It's all a Ponzi scheme.
Yeah, but when there's an NFT project with avatar looking whales that are supposed to be using your money to buy mining equipment.
Well, here's the number one problem. I haven't heard of it.
Who hasn't heard of it?
That's the end all be all. Gannon hasn't heard of it.
No, it's not. It's not.
Mr. Fiduciary, that's pretty tough.
Actually how I conduct
Gannon hears of a lot of stuff. How are you feeling about that? What's your rebuttal?
I've just done my due diligence, and again, I believe in the individuals, not necessarily the project itself, but the individuals. I do.
I think that's very important, though. I mean, because there was a point in time where nobody knew about goblins. Okay, there was a point in time when goblins had 500 followers on Twitter, and there was people buying, getting ready to buy. So it is possible. I was just kind of more making a joke there. So
nice. Cool.
Amen. Chatter, we haven't heard from you, Chatter Quant. Why don't you chime in?
Awesome. Appreciate you guys having me up here. I was just at a crypto, kind of a small crypto conference where we're based out of here, and was talking to I'm sure there's going to be some people that disagree, and I actually want to hear their thoughts on this, but was talking to an intellectual property attorney, and he represents us, but he also represents a ton of really huge kind of big name public companies, but brought up the fact that in the purchase of an NFT, you are not purchasing any rights to the artwork. And he specifically brings up that copyrights are reserved solely for the artist, unless that artist writes out a paper that says, hey, I hereby transfer all rights for use, redistribution, etc. over to the purchaser of this NFT. And my rebuttal to that was, well, what about smart contracts? And he brought up a case, which, let me pull it up here so I don't butcher it. Software Solutions Partners versus HM Customs and Excise, which was of February of this year, where basically that basically stated that artificial intelligence is not a person, and let me see here, and lack legal personhood, and so cannot execute contracts. And I thought that was super interesting because basically what he was trying to say, and he had brought up a case study for every question I asked him, was under no case. Essentially the gist of it was, as the NFT community kind of stands and the way NFTs work right now, there's it doesn't exist, right? And I'd love to hear, obviously, rebuttals, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people here who don't like that I brought that up, but it was something I found super interesting and wanted to hear other people's thoughts within this space on that idea or concept.
I think that's a really interesting take, and if anyone wants to respond, by all means. What I'll say is, like, when you think about traditional collectibles, like when you're buying a baseball card or something, you're not buying any sort of intellectual property rights to that card, to that photo, etc. Like I'd say the intrinsic value of the collectible comes from like a separate sort of source of value than like intellectual property rights, which is sort of a paradigm that can be like mirrors sort of the traditional world, and is like its own asset in the past with like legal agreements. But the NFT as a collectible of some Fiverr art where there's 10,000 of them, like the value that's derived from IP is probably like negligible and also like adjacent to what people actually want it for. That's kind of my dumb take, but maybe someone on here is a lot smarter than me.
Just to add to that, I mean, when the person who purchased Beeple's, what was it, 5,000 something, I think it was called, for $69 million, right? I'm sure that person wants to at least think that they have they now own this artwork. They have the ability to, put it on a t-shirt if they want. But what he was essentially saying is, no, that all technically still belongs to the artist, at least on current and prior case law.
Gotcha. Yeah.
I think it totally depends on, what the seller outlines, because with like Bored Ape Yacht Club, they've made it abundantly clear in actual writing of outlining all these things. And the people who are, I guess, quote unquote, would be suing per se, would be the artists or the first seller. So, for example, Meebits and CryptoPunks did not have commercial rights. They did not have the intellectual property rights that everyone was, hot to trot about Bored Ape Yacht Club that they beginning. And then when Bored Ape Yacht Club bought CryptoPunks and Meebits, like that was one of the first things that they implemented and made a whole statement about. So I think like when you're looking at your lawyer friend or whatever is looking at like specific cases, you're looking at cases in which like those steps were not taken in place. It would be interesting. I mean, I could be totally wrong, but like,
look, Gannon, not to shut you off, not to shut you down, but we do have someone here who knows a lot about investments. Samir CO Vise is in here. What do you think about in terms of investment theses for NFTs?
Yeah, thank you for having me, Shane. This is a cool thing you guys are doing with the spaces. I think that it's my take is it's correlated to everything else, right? So like NFTs are gonna drop in price alongside every other kind of speculative asset as more liquidity gets like taken out of the system. So I think that long term it's probably a good bet to kind of de-risk yourself from some of these assets. But I think that there's definitely going to be some opportunity, to pick up some good deals.
What are you buying, Samir? Which JPEG piques your interest the most?
I'm only buying value stocks right now. So consumer staples, I'm all in on that. But any kind of speculative investments, I am not making right now.
So you're not buying any crypto goblins?
I'm not buying any crypto goblins. No. What are you buying, Shane?
It's a good question. I mean, we can kind of have some final last pitches, but the GoblinTown.WTF, although they're pretty ugly, they Franklin did make a great bull case, and he does have a history of picking some home runs. But Gannon, you also had some others that you were mentioning, and I know we've got some other people like Drew. You just hopped on, Drew. I guess you have a really interesting perspective because you're at Rally Road, and you know how to value these collectibles just about as good as anyone because you guys are securitizing them. So, what do you have? What do you think?
Yeah, I do not speak for Rally at all here, but I was just at VCon with the team. It's very interesting to see kind of how people are dealing with this bear market, especially these people that are so obsessed with Gary Vee and the V Friends. And my takeaway is, like, at the end of the day, with these NFTs, you're buying the community, you're buying a story, and how that story is going to play out, right? So you guys talked about how that $69 NFT was sold by Beeple. I don't think that guy that bought it really cares much about, what he can do with that NFT. I think it's more closer to an Andy Warhol than it is an NFT, to be honest. But I think you got to look at each of these NFTs in their own way. Like the Goblins NFT, that's not a piece of art. Like the art is kind of cool in its own way, but it's kind of cringy, which makes it awesome, right? And that's kind of what I think is really cool about it, and that everyone kind of gets behind. But also good to see you, Wolf. It's been a minute.
Yeah,
Got to catch up soon.
Kind of like you. It's cringy, but it's awesome. No, I'm just kidding. What's up,
Thank
man?
you, brother.
Good to see
Ashley.
you on your little personal account. What's up, Ash? Oh, actually, stock market news. If we could get him back up, I know he had his hand up for a while there beforehand, and let me just bring him on stage real quick because he have a point he wanted to make before we wrap up here. I know we only have 5 minutes, and he hasn't really gotten a chance to talk. Stock market news. You back up here?
Yeah, what's up? Appreciate you guys letting me come back up here and speak.
Yeah, all you.
Awesome. I wanted to come in and just throw out something in there. I'm definitely much more of a stock guy, and I would say I am bullish on the underlying NFT technology, but I'm more or less bearish on the current market. And I just wanted to kind of ask and maybe kind of prod a little bit about the thing that kind of goes around with blue chip. I think it's kind of a little bit of an interesting, or I think it's hard for me to wrap my head around calling something that hasn't been through a bear market a blue chip. So for me, like, if you want to make the argument, CryptoPunks, that one's been around since 2017. I see where we're going there. But truthfully, when I look at these Bored Apes, these doodles, all these things that are considered blue chip right now, I do question that, like, what happens when we go through their first prolonged bear market? What's keeping them up? And, like, I don't know. It's just, for me, as someone from the outside, I recognize and I think that a couple of these will survive. But, for me, it's too hard to pick that individual ones, to pick that Amazon out of there. I low-key wish there was maybe an ETF or something. I digress, though. But yeah, I just kind of want to go back to that point of, like, just for me, I struggle to wrap my head around calling NFTs that haven't been through a bear market blue chip. I think community is really...
we're watching.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say we're in it, man. Like 90% of these projects have, like, practically all the small, projects have, like, gone to, like, nothing. So, they're in here.
Gannon, just for the record, it's definitely going to get a lot worse than this. So this is not the bottom.
But I agree.
Oh,
we
have
are
no
in
idea.
a bear
We
market.
have absolutely no idea what the bottom and the top and whatever is. Your guess is just as good as mine. So, I mean, we could see Ape Fest. I mean, the rumor is they've spent close to, like, $10 million on this event, and they're renting Pier 7? Huge, like, insane that is, and gonna have, like, the biggest artists in the world performing. I mean, this is a exclusivity club. This is a membership, and people are gonna be mind blown when they see this. I mean, who knows what could happen in a week and a half? And that goes for the stock market too. I follow the stock market very heavily. So, I mean, the real, that's all I have to say. Yeah.
I agree. First of all, I'm a big fan of Gannon. I love the drop. Him and Kayla do a bunch of awesome stuff there. Major shout out to them. And truthfully, when I think about like what would be worse, I think for NFTs, kind of that 2 year kind of grinding a little bit lower would be worse than kind of just having that one massive drop off, and then we come back in a couple months because the hype is still there. But in my mind, nothing kills hype like 2 years of skidding slightly lower. You know what I mean? And I genuinely think, when I look at what's happened with crypto, we've had these bull bear cycles. We come back stronger than we did last time, and I think that's going to happen. I just really think a lot of that exciting tech and exciting growth happens in a bear market, and the companies that I want to invest in for that next bear bull cycle or for the future, I don't know if have been created yet. I know that's my mindset with it, and maybe it's going to stop me from getting in some of these earlier projects, but I think it will serve me in the long term. But for me, just those Bored Apes, and I don't know. For me, everyone considers them a blue chip, but I still think they're not quite at that level.
I
Have fun
I want
staying.
to just say one quick thing. I agree with some of the statements that you said, stock market news. One thing, the most bullish thing about this bear market is the fact that it's occurring during an actual bear market macro. We got inflation through the roof. We have interest rates going up. We have gold not even doing well during this time. We have stocks. We have the QQQ down over 30% on the year. And then now we're having our NFT bear market. If this was occurring when all of those factors weren't occurring, I think we'd have a different conversation.
I agree with you there. I really think there was literally. I'll wrap it up after this. I know I've been going for a little. There's nothing that these NFTs could have done. The Fed came in over their head, over the stock market head, over everyone's head, and is forcing this to happen. But so I definitely do agree with you there. I'll kind of keep it that there was nothing they could have done to avoid this, and it's kind of what happens next. It's how long that punch bowl will be stayed away, and yeah. But I'll let us move on. Major shout out to Wolf Financial for putting on this spaces. Awesome and massive shout out to Polymarket for having such a fantastic website and giving us the ability to short some of these NFTs and go long. But yeah, massive shout out to Polymarket. Love what you guys are doing. Appreciate you guys.
Amazing. And guys, because I guess we do have a few more minutes. Is that cool, Wolf? Like maybe three,
Yeah,
4 minutes?
till 6:15. I'm just gonna have another. I'm doing.
Justin, you made a really interesting tweet. Why don't you just say something and then
Yeah,
I'll
sure.
bring
Yeah,
us
just
home.
sure. Thanks for bringing me up. Yeah, I just came up just to clear some confusion about what someone had mentioned about the legality of IP licenses in Web3. So there was a little bit of conflation of two different issues. So what that speaker misunderstood from it sounds like his lawyer is that smart contracts inherently aren't legal contracts, but you for sure, without a doubt, can still present licenses to intellectual property through other means like terms of services, etc. That's like the Yuga Labs model is not done in the smart contract directly. It's through a terms of service that lives on their website and elsewhere. And those definitely have been for a long time been considered legally enforceable. The one, and so that was kind of just a conflation of like artificial intelligence smart contracts as they're not legal contracts in themselves with the ability to actually license out IP. Now, there is an interesting kind of area of law that that big large institutions like such as the WIPO, the World Intellectual Property Organization, have been studying for some time, which is can completely computer generated artworks, etc., be given copyright protection. And so far, the courts have ruled that as long as there's some level of human input, it is granted copyright protection. If it's no human input whatsoever, then they don't grant it. So something like the 10,000 projects, we've all been collecting, such as, Bored Apes, Doodles, etc. It definitely way surpasses the human input element to deserve copyright protection in the first place. So anyways, just wanted to clarify confusion because I know people can run away like in fear, thinking like, oh, this is all like just like a house of cards, but that's far from the case.
Very, very intellectual take. Barack, why don't you just bring us home, but be brief, but you've been patient.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me here, World Finance, Shane.
I like your
Actually,
McDonald's PFP.
yeah,
That's where I'm going if Polymarket doesn't work out.
yeah, that's why. Actually, when I see the headline of Spaces as a crypto native, I just wanted to came to ask, is it gonna be really possible to do that? And I have a concern: is the market can handle this? In the crypto market, we were checking some charts and some news. We were according to and to take our positions to that, but here in NFT space, we can see mostly the holders. I mean the NFT projects. I mean, but I I'm not sure that the market can handle this, but I would love to use this option. I just wanted to came to say this actually.
Yes, thank you, Barack. On that note, Wolf, thank you so much for having us. Everyone in here, there's a lot of really cool, exciting things coming to Polymarket soon. I encourage, first of all, this was awesome. We're definitely going to do another NFT Twitter Spaces. I encourage everyone to go follow Polymarket's Twitter account, and if you have any questions, just DM the account. And like seriously, everyone gets responded to. So if you really have any questions, or if you just want to say hi, just DM that account, and we'll be back on the next one. And I think that with the way that the markets work now, there's a lot of constriction, or it's difficult for there to be deep liquidity, and there's people are shipping changes that are going to change that. So we're really excited, and we're grateful for everyone here contributing to the conversation and listening in. So thanks to everyone who showed up, and also if anyone has feedback on this or how we can do this better, my DMs are also open for anybody. So don't hesitate. Don't be afraid to say hi. And thanks so much for coming in.
Yeah, absolutely. Great points. Yeah, we're definitely doing more spaces with Polymarket, and I'm also going to keep this space open. I have about 10 more minutes until my next space, which is going to be with Metaverse Miami. I know there's people in this panel and also in the audience who are going to be at that. So happy to keep this open and chat about that. And we can also go around and just give some closing comments to some of the other planned speakers for this. But I think one of the other things to point out is also, if you're not finding a poll that you want on Polymarket, they do have a Discord. The Discord is linked inside of the bio of the main account. So if you click into that, you'll be able to go in there and you can actually suggest different marketplaces and different, bets or whatever, predictions, markets, things along those lines, that they can, then integrate potentially and add. So there's a lot of different ways to go about it. With that being said, I would love to give some of our planned speakers some closing comments. Franklin, it was awesome having you on a space. It's been a little bit. Anything else you'd like to share on this one?
Thanks. No, I had a good time talking, and it's good to see, I get to hear voices from outside, or not really outside, but more in the financial and stock sector. As I just came in kind of out of nowhere into the NFT world, so it's good to see like the profiles and hear the voices, and get a more diverse opinion of what people with a lot more background in finance than I am, view, and how they view like these quote unquote blue chip NFT projects, or if they see a certain project that there might be holes in that project where I don't see as a collector. So this was a really good space, and I was proud to be a part of it, and I'm glad to see so many faces in there.
Absolutely. Franklin, any advice for retail investors as they go through this NFT bear market?
I would say just be careful in what you're buying into. It seems like a lot of these projects are on the way down. So a project like Goblin, I think the reason why they had so much momentum is just you have to be present. You have to be on your toes on social media. There's a lot of people talking about Goblin, more people talking about them than any other project, and I think that was part of the reason why. I mean, I'm not trying to draw a direct line, but when Bored Apes went really really crazy this time last year, there wasn't really that many alternatives to buy into, and it seemed like this week there wasn't really that many alternative projects that people were talking about other than Goblins. So it seemed like it was just programmed that the price would go up pretty high. So for people who are new to NFTs, just don't overthink yourself. Don't think you're trying to find like the most alpha-ist of alpha where nobody else knows about, because you end up buying something that nobody else is buying.
Love it, man. Yeah, definitely inspired, by the stuff that you put out on your timeline. I think Gannon nailed it. You make these awesome little flips. Everyone thinks you have to come in right with just whale size to make any money. But I think you show people that there is a lot of opportunity within these markets, both the long-term holds where you have a massive portfolio as well as the short-term, right?
Yep, exactly. I mean, there's I just saw a lot of utility in the apes to begin with. I mean, there's other projects like that too. I think as we head into the NFT NYC season, there may be like 3 or 4 projects that people will talk about a lot in terms of what they'll be doing in NFT NYC. So it could be a nice little sneaky way to buy in a month early before people start FOMOing in order to get into like a party or something. Just as a good short term hold.
Awesome points. Shane, you want to say something there?
Market idea. Which NFT project is going to waste the most money on their NFT NYC party?
Probably Cool Cats, because their floor price has dropped down to under like 2.8 ETH. When I bet at the previous NFT NYC it was probably like 10 or 12 ETH. So they have to do a lot to make up for that.
What about the Pudgy Penguins?
Oh yeah, they're down to like 1 ETH now, right? Well, they didn't really get up past 2 ETH or 3 ETH for a long time. So I don't know how much money they have to spend in this go around. Their team drained their whole wallet, as of a few months ago.
Yeah, I did see all that happen. Everybody, make sure that you're following Franklin if you want to be getting NFT Alpha regularly. Posts a lot of his trades, very clear, hops and spaces. Great guy. I've met him a couple times in person. So appreciate you doing this.
I'm one last thing. I recently, started studying ENS domain, so I got Joe Biden.eth last night. That was pretty big buy for me.
That wasn't
That's the most
bought
I
yet?
ever spent on ENS. Oh no, somebody else had already minted it, or somebody else had minted it, and then Bloom Capital ended up buying it from somebody else, and then he sold it to me. So it was just a secondary market.
That's
but
awesome.
It's
I
an
do see
ENS
it in
domain I'm
your
pretty proud
username.
of. Yeah, I like it. So that could be, if you're smart and know any inside information on companies that might be coming into Web3, might be good to squat on their name or just any sort of phrase or any memes that might become popular in the next year or two. It'd be a good way to invest. Don't just overextend yourself though, because once I bought mine yesterday, I've probably gotten like 100 offers for 100 different domains. So
that's pretty sweet. How many do you own?
I just make up random phrases. That's what a lot of people do. They just make up random stuff. So I don't really know how many I
Guys,
own, but it's a lot.
I'm rolling out here. This was an awesome 1 hour, 10-minute sesh, and look forward to next time.
Shane, appreciate you being on.
God bless and rock and roll.
See you, Shane.
Okay, awesome, Franklin. Ashley, any closing thoughts you want to share with us?
Basically, for those that are listening that don't have a lot of experience or just getting into it, it's really good to follow some traders that have success. Don't buy into degen projects immediately, only if you have a lot of experience, because you can end up getting super wrecked. So just buy some projects that are already established in the space, and just be careful. You can't trust just one person. Just get a lot of different opinions, form some really great friendships, and don't be afraid to reach out to people that are doing well in the space for advice.
Great points. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we talked about this the last time, right? You have to be able to learn from those who have been there. It's a top tier mindset. Yo, Chad, I don't know if you talked on this one. You want to share anything? Might just be hanging out in the back. Okay, no worries. Chris, I don't know if we are you there? There, perfect. Anything you want to share on this one?
Yeah, so I'm not an expert in NFTs, but I do know quite a bit about the art world. Art's kind of like the original NFT. I've written about art a lot, and art is obviously a huge asset class. Like I think among billionaires, it's like way bigger than real estate, for instance. And it just it's something that's interesting to me that I think about, and I wonder what you guys think. People talk about when you buy an NFT, you're buying the community, you're buying the story, you're buying the creator. Well, it's exactly the same thing with art. But the hallmark of the art market is that access is restricted. You cannot walk into a gallery and buy a piece of art if you're not already known to the gallerist. You have to have a name, you have to have stature in the community. And then if you buy a piece of art and then you immediately flip it, you are blacklisted. You can never buy again. So it's like the art world, developed over centuries, it's not regulated at all by the government, but it has very intricate internal rules about how exactly you're allowed to participate. And really, restricting access is fundamentally like the name of the game there. And so I just, I wonder if that's where NFTs are going to go over the long term. Also, maybe that's already happening to some extent. I don't know. But
Did it rug him for anyone else kind of on the last 5 seconds there?
Yeah, it rugged him.
Okay. Chris, you there? All right. I was getting some good stuff there, especially in regards to the art. It was passionate. I enjoyed it. Okay, we just got about a minute or two more before we move into this Metaverse Miami space. We already have Kenobi up here. So, Drew, I'll give final word to you if you want to say anything else. Mr. Drew Levine.
Cool. Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah, I would say you gotta view this market kind of like how the ICO shitcoin market went in 2017. Right? Like everyone was making a shit ton of money. If you were in like altcoins, everyone was killing it. And now there's like a few handful of those altcoins that still exist. And I think in a few years it's gonna be the exact same thing. So during this quote unquote bear market, which I don't even think we've scraped the surface in, just think about like what projects are doing what, how they're acting, because depending on how people act in the bear market when shit is getting clobbered, when they're not making as much money, will tell you like when they're, if they're really legit and if they're in the space to really build or if they're just trying to make a quick buck. So I actually think this opportunity is going to be massive. I think it's the best time to like actually dive in because a lot of people are going to walk away. So keep your head in the game, follow some good people. That was good advice. My guy Wolf is always keeping us up to date. And yeah,